Hey, how's it going guys? Chris here, and today's video is going to be running over all of my best support weapons in Battlefield 1. These are the machine guns I tend to use the most, or just generally the ones I prefer because of the way they work, and I'm going to be explaining why they deserve to be on this list and what makes them so effective along the way. Now obviously, because everyone's got their own opinion of what's the best, this is going to be another fairly subjective video for you, so don't be surprised to see and not see certain guns popping up in this list of 6. The support class is great for catering to a wide variety of playstyles, giving players both aggressive and defensive options that do well over most ranges. Some weapons are more suited for defending positions and laying down fire towards oncoming enemies, and others are better at pushing forwards and attacking the enemy head on for maximum effectiveness. So I'm going to be throwing a few different ones into the mix here and going over why they suit a specific role so well, often better than some of the other choices available in the support class. But anyway, at number 6 is the LMG 0818, one of the fastest firing guns of the bunch that can be a really good aggressive and defensive weapon depending on how it's used. The 0818's got a lot of really strong positive factors, allowing it to excel within those closer ranges, even allowing it to take on assault players in CQC quite effectively, but also work as a solid bipoded gun for taking on enemies further away, over those slightly further mid to long ranges too. It kinda functions like a less exaggerated, more reliable version of the Parabellum MG14, in the sense that the gun fires a little bit slower at 600 RPM instead of 700, but can remain on target a tad easier too, due to it having less horizontal recoil, which basically makes the gun more accurate and less likely to miss shots in fully automatic fire. The LMG 0818 isn't exactly a very precise or controllable weapon by any means, generally making it a less suitable thing for taking on players over those mid-ranges. But with it being a more accurate gun than the Parabellum, you're going to land more shots on opponents slightly further away without the weapon violently kicking around all over the place too much, cutting down your kill times due to more bullets landed on target, and generally making it feel like a more dependable killing machine as a whole. As 600 RPM is still a pretty fast rate of fire, giving you a finer balance between its speed and accuracy that's often a little bit easier to handle. The BAR also fires at the same rates as the LMG 0818 at 600 RPM, giving the two guns some fairly similar kill times. But with the 0818 being able to hold a hell of a lot more ammo, 5 times the amount as the BAR at 100 rounds, this allows you to keep on gunning and suppress fire for longer, which might come in handy when playing with a defensive mindset, hunkering down and overlooking an area whilst using the gun with its bipod to quickly dispatch of any players willing to take you on further away, as it's surprisingly effective when used from a stationary position, with it having that extra much needed precision, along with rapid kill times and a higher than average muzzle velocity, making it easier to use over those longer distances. It might also prove to be quite useful when you're playing closer to all the action too, as if you become surrounded by the enemy team at an objective point, which generally happens quite a lot in Battlefield 1, you might not be the most accurate player in the fight, but at least you'll have lots of speed, power, and usually plenty of ammo to take down anyone you come across, giving the LMG 0818 several different purposes, thus allowing it to perform relatively well with both passive and aggressive playstyles. At number 5, we've got the Burton Elimar, one of the latest weapons added into Battlefield 1 that directly challenges the assault class's rapid-firing close-quarter SMGs, and gives the support a very powerful contender that typically functions in a much more aggressive way to the average LMG. The Burton's fire rate is the thing that sets it apart from the rest of the pack, being able to shoot quicker than everything else in its class, massively reflecting on those kill times and making it a pretty brutal thing to use against someone within close to mid-range. But unlike some of the other faster shooting weapons that the support can equip, like the 0818 and the Parabellum, the Burton Elimar's actually, surprisingly, got a very respectable recoil pattern, making it a lot easier to control than the others and allowing it to perform better without the need of a bipod. This gives it more effectiveness further away and basically makes it feel like a slower firing version of the assault class's Automatico, which deals a little bit of extra damage over distance, making it a more suitable mid-range weapon. And because it can take players down so quickly, this insane combination of speed, power, and reasonable accuracy lets the Burton Elimar do things that no other support weapon can do, along with the fact that it can shred up planes with that incendiary ammo too, if they're giving you a hard time. Easily the biggest drawback to using the gun is the fact that it's only typically got 20 rounds at any given time, 40 rounds if you include the weaker incendiary shots that have to be manually swapped over to. And this lack of ammo can prove to be more of a problem within those offensive ranges, where the weapon tends to be most effective, which is a bit of a shame, because it means you'll have to play smart if you want to survive, and learn to avoid danger by utilising cover whenever you can, in order to swap over those magazines safely. So having all that power comes at a price, and forces you to play with more of a passive-aggressive mindset if you're planning on staying alive. as you'll be running out of ammo all the time with the gun shooting so quickly, and barely holding enough shots to take down a couple of targets. But so long as you keep this in mind and stick to cover to avoid getting caught out, it can be a devastating weapon to bring along to the fight, being able to butcher enemy players within close to medium distances very quickly and easily. And I tend to find that the trench variant plays to the Burton strengths the most, as you can utilise that greater hipfire accuracy within shorter sightlines to cut down kill times even more. Definitely one of the angriest short-tempered guns that a support player can equip, which is one of the main reasons why it makes this list. Coming in at number 4 is the M1917 MG, one of the slower firing, more defensive machine guns in Battlefield 1's armoury, which ticks all the right boxes for being a very effective, dependable support weapon. It might not be able to kill players very quickly due to that sluggish 450 RPM fire rate, and you'll probably struggle to win gunfights within those closer ranges, so it's not exactly a fantastic run and gun option, but the M1917 becomes a much more useful thing to use against players further away. This is largely down to the gun having a very low amount of recoil, both vertically and horizontally, pretty good spread values when stationary, and having an absolute shitload of ammo, being able to hold up to 250 rounds at full capacity, so the most in the support class, which allows you to keep on going and going and going for almost as long as you want it to. Oh yeah, and it's also extremely accurate when you use it alongside that bipod, being able to take care of practically anyone within your sightlines really easily, with that high precision and speedy muzzle velocity, potentially making it a very deadly long-range machine gun, and something that can harass scouts and make their job a hell of a lot harder. There are a few guns that can outmatch the M1917 slightly in the recoil department, having steadier figures still, like the Perino for example, which is going to kick a teeny bit less for the most part. But the M1917's higher muzzle velocity and long-range damage is something that gives it a bit more effectiveness beyond medium distances, allowing the gun to kill more reliably due to the fact that limb shots won't reduce the damage enough to increase the bullets needed to kill, as it could take up to 6 shots to kill with the Perino beyond 50 meters if you hit a limb or the lower body, unlike the M1917 which is always going to take 5 or less. This gives it a bit more consistency outside of medium ranges, where the Perino might sometimes seem to perform a tad better with those slightly lower recoil values and a quick ammo top up whenever you're replenishing those bullets mid-battle. But as far as defensive weapons go, the M1917 does everything right. Rapid kill times aren't always as important when you're attacking players further away, where enemies usually pose less of a threat. And the fact that you can lay down the fire accurately while standing still means that you can take them on without needing to hit the deck or find a ledge to deploy the bipod. For these reasons, I like both variants, though I actually tend to prefer the telescopic variant, with it having better optics for longer ranges, where the M1917 performs surprisingly well. In third place is the Shosho, or the Shosha, or whatever the hell you want to call it. It's a really hard hitting machine gun that packs more of a punch than the others, but fires slower to compensate, which sort of balances things out and still makes it a very viable option to use over most ranges. The Shosho can kill in just 3 bullets up to 20 meters, and 4 bullets anywhere beyond, so this gives it a lot more power per bullet, and actually makes it quite comparable to some of the medic weapons, with the gun kinda functioning like a fully automatic autoloading 8.35 up close, with a larger magazine and a heavier amount of recoil. Although this recoil doesn't really become a massive problem when taking on ranged targets, as the Shosho's fairly bouncy kick can often be countered by simply tapping the trigger to deliver those punishing shots one by one. Having a low first shot recoil multiplier definitely has its advantages, and in this case, it complements the Shosho's ranged effectiveness quite well. Targets already weakened by other things in the game are going to go down ridiculously quickly, as you'll have to land even fewer bullets still in a lot of instances. And netting yourself a headshot within those closer ranges actually allows you to kill in fewer bullets too, ramping the damage up to 64.6, thus allowing you to kill in just 2 shots, giving the weapon even more lethality in CQC. I guess the biggest downside to using the Shosho, other than that slow rate of fire, is the fact that it can only hold 20 rounds per magazine, so not exactly very much to play around with, especially when you compare it to a lot of the other weapons in the same class. But I guess this is less of a problem because of that slower rate of fire, and with it typically taking less bullets to kill, meaning you can kill more enemies with a single magazine, making it more sustainable than the likes of a BAR or Burton magazine. Both variants are pretty good in their own ways. The telescopic gives you a better view of ranged targets, often making it easier for landing shots on enemies further away with a buff to aim stationary fire. Plus it also has that same first shot recoil multiplier too, giving it the same tap fire capabilities as the low weight variant, and when used in combination with the bipod, it can be a really deadly ranged LMG that can pick off targets further away easily due to that higher damage output. But I also really like the low weight's faster recoil recovery rate too, which makes that tap fire even more effective, generally allowing the gun to work well within those closer to medium ranges, whilst using those shorter ranged iron sights. When it comes to aggressive support weapons, the BAR M1918 is a fan favourite, and for good reason too, as it's got lots of traits that allow it to excel within those close to mid ranges and put players down quickly and relatively easily. The BAR fires faster than most of the other guns in the support class at 600 RPM, killing even quicker than a fair few of the assault's SMGs too, which typically take more bullets to kill over range. This gives it a lot of lethality within those offensive ranges where you're likely to be advancing on enemy positions, and of course capping objective points. And in a way it functions a bit like an assault weapon, but generally has more effectiveness against players further away, being able to knock larger amounts of health off your opponents and often feel easier to use too, due to its muzzle velocity being higher, resulting in a faster bullet speed. Because the BAR fires at the same speed as the LMG 0818, another pretty fast firing support gun that can also shred through players up close, it's going to kill at a similar kind of speed. But the BAR has far less recoil and generally better spread values, with less than half the horizontal recoil of the 0818, making it twice as accurate. And this is really useful for landing shots on players further away at those mid ranges, where the BAR can generally perform better without the need of a bipod. In many ways, you could compare the BAR with the Burton Elimar, in the sense that they're both really aggressive, fast firing guns, best suited for taking the enemy head on. And they also happen to have the same flaw of only being able to hold up to 20 rounds at a time. They also happen to reload at the exact same speeds too, with tactical reloads taking 2.8 seconds and full ones taking 3.2. Neither of which are particularly long reload times, especially when compared to the likes of the LMG 0818, but still a bit of a hindrance when you're up on the front lines close to all the action, leaving you more open to attack, having to reload often in between gunfights. With the BAR dealing more damage however, and with it firing a bit slower than the Burton, it's easier to make the most of those smaller magazines and kill more enemies with them. So although the Burton might be able to punish players with that rapid fire rate, the BAR can take on more players per magazine more reliably, and generally be a bit more of an effective weapon to use beyond closer ranges. I normally prefer using the Storm or Trench variants of the BAR due to them being more catered for offensive play, having that reduced hipfire for the Trench for close quarter gunfights within buildings and tight spaces, along with the Storm's reduced recoil to help make the gun easier to control within the BAR's optimal range. Telescopic is also a decent option for defensive playstyles, though I'd typically opt for the LMG 0818 suppressive variant instead to fill in the role of the BAR telescopic, due to it holding more ammo and being able to sustain fire for longer. So my number one support gun in the game might surprise you, because it's one of those weapons that's been in the game from the very beginning, the Lewis gun, which in my honest opinion is the most versatile weapon in the whole class. There's a lot of reasons to love the Lewis gun, as it's basically the good all-rounder for the support class, not having any particularly amazing stats to boost its kill times or performance over the others, but at the same time not really having any glaring issues that are going to catch you out or force you to play in a particular way. It only fires at 480 RPM, which is still not too bad, as it's slightly quicker than a few of the other machine guns, being just a little bit slower than the MG15NA, but it's not exactly going to blitz through close range targets tremendously quickly like a lot of the others in the class, kinda putting it in the middle of the bunch regarding kill times. Killing quickly might not be a factor that the Lewis gun is best known for, but it's the fact that it has so many other advantages to make it feel very usable in so many different situations, allowing it to fit in with almost any playstyle, both passive and aggressive. And this sets it apart from the other weapons and makes it quite unique. It's a pretty accurate weapon, so you'll be able to land more shots on target over distance easier, reducing those kill times further and allowing it to actually perform better than a lot of the other faster firing LMGs. Plus the fact that the Lewis gun can carry a very respectable amount of ammo in those pan magazines, holding either 47 or 97 rounds depending on the variant, means that you'll be able to take on multiple enemies one after the other without having to worry about running out of bullets mid-gunfight, giving the weapon even more appeal and making it even more dependable at keeping you alive and allowing you to take on almost any situation you get thrown into. All of these factors combined give the Lewis gun a lot of versatility, as although it doesn't really excel in any particular aspect, with other guns having better stats specifically in certain fields, it makes up for it in its ability to do most things fairly well, and in a way it can often feel like a slightly less accurate Hewitt automatic with a lot more ammo. I actually really like all three variants, as they all seem to perform well with the stats they have. The low weight's faster recoil recovery rate helps out a ton when tap firing to take on ranged targets over mid ranges. The optical variant allows for a slightly more aggressive attitude with those reduced ADS spread stats, And the suppressive variant is a really bloody good choice to pick too, ramping that ammo capacity right the way up to 97 rounds, and giving you a very clear view of targets ahead with that telescopic sight, which is also surprisingly easy to use, due to the Lewis gun having that pretty decent recoil pattern. So although I tend to use all of the guns in Battlefield 1 round about as much as each other, those are my favourite support weapons that I'd probably consider to be the best in the game for me and my playstyles. So let me know down below in the comments what your favourite support guns are and the ones that you like to use the most. And of course, subscribe to see more content on Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 coming very soon. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in that next episode.